And we are live. Good morning, everybody. Let's pull this thing up on YouTube, see what we got. All right, there we go. Happy Monday. Can't believe we're back here. Another Monday in front of all of you. If you're watching, thanks for tuning in. Hope you had a great weekend. I know I did. This past weekend was busy, but a lot of us got a chance to really put our training to use. We got a chance to test our fitness. This past weekend was our very first beach brawl / triathlon training camp. So we're in our fall training cycle. We have some huge events coming up in September. We've got the Gulf Shores Triathlon the second weekend of September. We've got quite a few athletes doing either an Olympic triathlon or a sprint triathlon, some of them for the first time. And then at the end of September, we are going to compete in Pensacola at Beach Brawl. And I think we have over 20 athletes that are going to do that CrossFit competition. So we've got some awesome, endurance training happening. We've got some more lifting happening, but it's been great. And this past weekend, we did 2 hard workouts on Friday. We turned around and did 2 workouts Saturday morning. And then on Sunday, we actually did a mock triathlon. We did about 3-mile run, swam about 600 meters, and then went on a little beltline bike ride. So it was a blast. But it was really cool to see, all of our athletes that have been training, kind of see what it's all been for, because we kind of put it to the test this weekend just to check in and see how we were doing. And I think everyone really surprised themselves with how good they're feeling. Their training is definitely paying off. But one of the conversations that was happening with all kinds of different athletes, whether they were doing beach brawl or the triathlon, some people getting ready for, DECA that's coming up in October, November, is fueling. And I think kind of a controversial topic, or it's become controversial, is carbs. When do you need them? When do you not need them? And I think depending on your lifespan at Oxfit, you might hear your coach say, I want you to cut out carbs completely. Or you might hear your coach tell another person, you haven't eaten nearly enough carbs today. So, how can those things be true at the same time, right? If carbs are so terrible, why do, professional athletes, CrossFit champions, triathletes eat hundreds of grams of them every day? And if carbs are essential, why does your coworker all of a sudden lose all this weight and look and feel amazing whenever they do a low carb or a keto diet? So who's right? What's the right answer? And I think the point of this podcast today is explain that there is no right answer. There is no, side of the fence that you need to be on. And I think sometimes you read things or see things, especially in the fitness industry, that make it sound so polarizing. Like you're expected to pick, am I team high carb or am I team low carb? Because there's only one right thing. And your body and biology doesn't work that way. Your body doesn't care about how you feel about low carb, high carb. Your body only responds to one thing, and that is just context, because carbs are not inherently good or bad. They're just fuel. And I think a good analogy is that you wouldn't put the same amount of fuel into a race car as you would a car that just sits around parked in a garage. So your carbohydrate needs depend almost entirely on how much energy you're actually using. And today I just kind of want to break down who actually benefits from eating more carbs, who benefits from eating less, and why it's okay if at different points in your fitness journey or someone else's fitness journey, you're receiving kind of contradictory pieces of advice, because it's all about context. It's all about what you're working towards and what your goals are. Um, so yeah, who actually needs more carbs? So Think about what happens during a really heavy lift or a 100-meter sprint or a really brutal Oxfit endurance workout. These activities are requiring energy immediately. Your muscles need the ATP, they need it fast. And fat is an incredible fuel source, but it's pretty slow to convert into usable energy. So, for high intensity exercise, your body relies primarily on muscle glycogen, stored carbohydrates, because it can generate that energy so much faster. And that's why athletes who perform explosive, high output training usually consume a lot of carbohydrates. And of course, there are exceptions to everything, but typically, these are people that are eating a lot of carbs. They're replacing the fuel that they burned. If you're lifting heavy 5 days a week, playing competitive sports, doing functional fitness like we do here at Oxfit, running intervals, carbs are going to restore all of that energy and support your performance. And a lot of people that have their goal really focused on performance and, sport or racing or being competitive will notice that whenever you're not eating enough carbs, your workouts feel harder. Your performance might decline. You're going to slow down, maybe even feel more fatigued. Now, does that mean that everyone needs a massive amount of carbohydrates? Or does that mean that because you do one workout a day and spend the rest of the day behind a desk, you need a massive amount of carbohydrates? No. It just means that the harder your body works, the greater demand it has for readily available fuel. And that is very much a surface level way to look at it. But it's cool to watch our athletes kind of go through that transition, because we have a lot of people signed up for beach brawl or the triathlon. And I think the biggest hurdle, myself included, is learning how to fuel for performance together. Because for a lot of folks, when you come into Oxford, especially when you do the coaching program, the very first thing we do is take you off of carbohydrates by doing a pretty intense elimination diet. So we'll do a paleo diet, we'll do Whole30, we'll do carnivore. So high protein, lots of fruits and vegetables, but not a lot of the classic carbohydrates that we're used to eating: rice, pasta, bread, taking all those things away. Whereas when you're training for a competition, we're making sure you're getting an extra serving of rice with dinner. You're eating an extra serving of carbs an hour before you start training. And I think that's where people kind of get to a sticking point, because they say, oh, well, I thought that I'm conditioned to not want to eat these carbs because I've gotten such great results when I went low carb before, and now you're telling me to eat a lot. But like I said a couple minutes ago, two things can be true at the same time, right? Because, sadly, the way we as Americans live and eat and operate, I would say that it's essential that we help people as they come into Oxfit start their fitness journey. It's essential to help people break their sugar addiction. And the best way to do that is to commit to 30 days of a pretty extreme low carb diet. And you're going to see really great results. You're probably going to lose some pounds. You're going to look better. You're going to feel better. And we've gotten some pushback from that from people because, carbs aren't the enemy. Well, I know that, but once again, it's all about context. Sometimes they are the enemy. You don't really need a lot of carbs if you wake up and drive to work and sit at a desk and then drive to the gym, and the only movement you get the entire day is a 45 to 60 minute workout. That doesn't warrant a massive intake of carbohydrates, right? If you bike to work every single day, if you move while you're working, if you do an hour-long workout and then you go for a walk after dinner when you go home, that is a very different lifestyle than just sitting most of the day, which is what a lot of us do. So those two things can definitely be true at the same time. And I think for our athletes, they will experience a whole spectrum of carb intake, because based on the time of year what your goals are, your relationship to the food you're eating, the amount of food you're eating is definitely going to change. And I think I could even use myself as a good example of that. Like going through the phases of the year, in January, coming out of the holidays where I was drinking more than I should have been, eating more than I should have been, wasn't working out as much as I normally do, I really benefited from doing paleo at the start of the year. Now, did I have a huge amount of energy for my workouts? No, but I wasn't really training for anything that required that. I was training to just have better habits, to eat better, to get on a really good schedule, commit to working out every single day, even if I was going a little bit lighter with the weights, a little bit slower. All right. After that season, you start putting things on the calendar that you're training for, right? We had a DECA event over the summer. So as that got closer, carb intake started to change. I started tracking my macros. I started incorporating different types of food into my diet because I was training more and harder. And that has evolved to now. This is kind of peak training season. The amount of carbs that I'm eating now is night and day compared to what was happening in January. And that's probably going to happen again next year. So it's been really fun to work with our clients in this training season to, teach and show like what needs to change based on what my goals are and how these two things can be true at the same time. 6 months ago, a year ago, they had a complete lifestyle change from going no carb or really low carb. And then fast forward to now, asking them to eat X amount because we're fueling for a triathlon. So yeah, I think it's really cool to see that difference and just see how we can learn more about our bodies and once again, just the context of what we're training for. So yeah, carbs are good when they're good, they're bad when they're bad, and those two things can be true at the same time depending on what phase of life you're in. So how much fuel does your body actually need, right? So if you're training hard, carbs are a really important part of supporting your performance. If you're largely sedentary or you're trying to work on your blood sugar control, reducing your carbohydrate intake, especially refined carbohydrates, is going to be really beneficial for you. But there is no universal perfect diet. And I think a lot of it is going to come down to a little bit of trial and error, but also just committing to something. If you've never experienced 30 days of Whole30 or paleo or a carnivore diet, I would highly, highly recommend just so you get a before and after to see how your body feels and see how you perform. At the same time, if you feel like your nutrition is pretty dialed in and you're coming to the gym every day and you're trying to be active on the weekends and you feel like you are constantly lethargic, you don't have energy, you're plateauing in the gym, you might need to be eating more food. It's probably time for you to support your muscle growth, to support your performance in the gym. And that's what myself and all of our Oxfit coaches do every single day. I work with clients training for beach brawl. Lauren is working with clients training for the triathlon. And that's what we love to do, is help people navigate, the rises and the falls, the plateaus of your fitness journey, because nutrition has to evolve. Just because when you joined Oxfit, we had you do 30 days of paleo, low carb, you lost weight, you look amazing, you feel good, and then you chose to not continue working with a coach, and now you've hit a plateau. Well, that's because we didn't have a chance to let your nutrition evolve with you, because it's going to be ever changing. So if you feel like you are either stuck in one place or you feel like you've never been able to lose the 10 pounds that you know you need to lose, if you feel like you want to be stronger, to move faster and just feel more athletic, but you're stuck, all of it is going to come down to the bottom of that pyramid, which is nutrition. And for some people, that's going to look like low carb. For some people, that's going to look like high carb. Some people are going to be somewhere in the middle. But a lot of times you just need a coach to help you figure that out. So if you feel like you are stuck somewhere in the carb dilemma and you feel like you have to commit to team no carb, high carb, or you just don't even know what the heck to eat because there are just so many differing opinions out there, we're here to help. So send me an email, sav@ox.fit. You can DM me on Instagram. You can DM oxfit on Instagram. We would love to work with you, especially if you have a goal that you want to put on the calendar, like a triathlon or beach brawl. Or our next big event that is going to be wide open for signups is our DECA Strong, DECA Atlas, and a High Rocks Strong that is coming to Oxfit in October. So that is 2.5 solid months of training, and we could make some pretty amazing headway with your performance and strength in that time. So if you're interested in setting a goal for October, I would love to work with you. Just let me know. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great Monday. Thanks for tuning in to the Carb Dilemma, and I will see you guys in the gym. Let's go.